Somewhere in southwest China, in January 2011, someone took a photo they were never supposed to take. From a moving car. Through a chain link fence. Blurry. Grainy. Half out of frame. But it was enough. It was the first time anyone outside China had ever laid eyes on this jet. That was 15 years ago. And right now, in 2026, we still don't actually know what it can do. Not because it hasn't flown. It's flown thousands of times. Not because it's hidden away in some hangar. There's an entire air force built around it now. We don't know, because the country that built it has made absolutely sure the rest of the world never finds out. 300 of these jets are in the sky right now. More than America's entire F-22 fleet, combined. And nearly everything you've ever read about it, the speed, the stealth rating, the sensors, is a guess. Made by people who have never been allowed close enough to actually know. Welcome to Apex Arsenal. Today, we're going after the J-20, Mighty Dragon, China's most secretive stealth fighter. And this video is everything we actually know, versus everything we've just been told. Picture the F-35 program for a second. The one we covered a few weeks ago. Public test flight footage. Congressional hearings about its budget, broadcast on television. Airshow demonstrations in front of thousands of people, cameras rolling the entire time. Now picture the opposite of that. For the first several years of its existence, the J-20 barely existed in public at all. No official reveal. No press conference. Just rumors. Leaked photos. And state media that would show a 2-second clip. Then cut away before you could see anything useful. When it did finally appear at an airshow. Heavily choreographed. Tightly controlled. Foreign analysts studying the footage frame by frame noticed something almost embarrassing. Visible gaps in the panel seams. Uneven stealth coating. An engine borrowed from Russia because China's own engine wasn't ready yet. For a while, that was the story the world told itself. An impressive-looking mock-up, more propaganda than fighter jet. Stay with me, because that story doesn't hold up anymore. While the rest of the world was busy underestimating it, China was busy building it. Not in small numbers. Not as a limited prestige program to show off at airshows. Over 300 J-20s are now in active service. To put that in perspective, America's F-22 Raptor, the jet we told you was untouchable, stopped production at just 186 aircraft. China has already built and fielded more stealth fighters of a single type than the United States ever allowed itself to build of its best one. And it's not slowing down. Factories that were once quietly assembling a handful of prototypes a year are now turning out squadrons. Here's the uncomfortable question that raises. If this jet were really just a flashy mock-up with cosmetic stealth and a borrowed engine, why would any country build 300 of them? Every stealth fighter program in history has had one component that almost broke it. For the J-20, it was the engine. For years, this jet flew on a Russian-designed engine never meant for a fighter this advanced. Underpowered, unreliable, and completely incapable of the one trait that separates a real fifth-generation fighter from an expensive stealth-shaped decoy. Supercruise. Supercruise means sustained supersonic flight without burning through fuel in afterburner. It's the difference between a jet that can loiter at high speed near a real fight, and a jet that gets one brief sprint before it has to turn home. For most of the J-20's early life, it simply couldn't do it. Then came the WS-15. China's own domestically designed engine. Built from scratch. After years of failures that foreign analysts love to point at as proof the whole program was stalling. It didn't stall. It shipped. And it reportedly delivers thrust in the same class as the F-22's own engine. Finally giving the J-20 genuine supercruise for the first time. Somewhere in Chengdu, there's an engineering team that spent over a decade failing in public. Watched analysts write their program off more than once. And then quietly solved the problem that mattered most. Here's where most explainer videos about this jet get the story wrong. They ask, can it beat an F-22 in a dogfight? That's the wrong question. The J-20 was never designed to turn and burn against another fighter up close. It doesn't even carry an internal gun. A startling omission for a fighter jet. Until you understand why. Its real weapon is the PL-15. A long-range air-to-air missile carried internally, designed to be fired from far outside the range most Western fighters expect to be threatened from. and its real targets were never supposed to be other fighter jets at all. Modern air power doesn't run on fighters alone. It runs on a handful of irreplaceable support aircraft flying quietly in the background. AWACS radar planes watching the whole battle space. Refueling tankers keeping fighters in the air for hours at a time. Remove those, and an entire air force loses its eyes and its endurance. That is what the J-20 was built to hunt. Slip past the front line unseen. Find the tankers and radar planes that everything else depends on. And kill them from a distance before anyone even knows it's there. It's not a duelist. It's an assassin built for the support cast, not the stars. This isn't a hypothetical scenario built for a YouTube video. It's happening in the skies over the Taiwan Strait right now. Chinese aircraft cross into Taiwan's air defense identification zone on a near-daily basis. Dozens of sorties some days, forcing Taiwanese pilots to scramble again and again. In May 2026, one of those formations included something new. A Chinese tanker aircraft, actively refueling fighters, inside that same contested airspace. The exact capability the J-20 was designed to protect and depend on. Demonstrated in the open, in the exact theater analysts believe this jet is built for. Now for the honest part. The part where we tell you what we don't actually know, instead of pretending we do. Analysts who study its radar cross-section generally agree on one thing. From the front, the J-20 is a credible stealth fighter. Its head-on radar signature is genuinely small. But turn it sideways, or look at it from behind, and that stealth appears to fall apart. Larger panel gaps, less refined shaping, a signature that's reportedly nowhere near as clean as the F-22 or F-35 from those angles. That's not necessarily a flaw, it might be a deliberate trade-off. Built to strike from the front and disappear, not to survive being caught from behind. Or it might be a genuine limitation nobody's solved yet. From outside the program, there's no way to know which. The sensors raise the same problem. China claims an AESA radar and distributed infrared sensors comparable to Western systems. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's optimistic marketing dressed up as a fact sheet. What almost every independent analyst agrees on is this: even if the hardware is comparable, matching the F-35 sensor fusion, the software that turns raw sensor data into one seamless picture a pilot can actually use, is a different problem entirely. One the United States has been refining for over 20 years. Nobody outside a very small circle in Beijing actually knows the answer. And that, more than any single spec, might be the most important fact in this entire video. Strip away the guesswork, and here's what's actually verifiable. A 5th-generation stealth fighter, in service since 2017, now numbering over 300 aircraft, more than the F-22 ever reached. An engine problem that took over a decade to solve, appears to finally be solved. A mission built not to dogfight, but to erase the support aircraft an entire air force depends on. And surrounding every one of those facts, a wall of silence thick enough that we genuinely cannot tell you with certainty how good the rest of it really is. That silence is not an accident. It's a strategy of its own. An adversary that doesn't know exactly what you can do has to prepare for the worst version of you. Which means uncertainty itself becomes a weapon, whether the jet fully lives up to it or not. And this isn't a distant, someday scenario. Taiwan's Air Force tracks Chinese aircraft entering its airspace on most days of the year. Every single one of those flights, Taiwan has to answer with real fuel, real pilots, on real aircrafts, responding to a threat it can only partially measure. That's the J-20 silence, working exactly as intended, before a single shot is ever fired. So here's the real question this video leaves you with. Not, can it beat the F-22? But this. When a country builds 300 stealth fighters and refuses to show you what they can actually do, how much of that is genuine capability? And how much of it is the fear of the unknown, doing the fighting before a single missile is ever fired? We've shown you the jet that wins by not being the fastest, and the jet with a perfect kill record built in the open, for the world to see. This one is different. This one wins, if it wins at all, by making sure you never really know. Apex Arsenal. We don't just show you the machine. We show you what it's actually built to do.